All right, so we're going to go over some of these problems, and the first one being find the x and y intercepts. So the thing we have to remember is x-intercepts, we're going to solve for x whenever we set y equal to 0 or f of x equal to 0. Whenever we're looking for the y-intercepts, we do the reverse. We set 0 for x and we solve for y. So let's go ahead and get started with the easier of the two, which is the y-intercept, right? So if I'm going to look for the y-intercept, that means I'm looking for what is my y value after I plug in 0 for every x value that I see. And since I have a whole bunch of x values for every term, they end up kind of canceling and going away. And so what I really have is f of 0 equals 0. In other words, my y-intercept goes through the origin. So that was for y-intercept. For x-intercept, I got to set it equal to 0, and I got to figure out what x value or values makes this statement true. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to factor. But in order for me to factor, I notice that they all have an x. So the very first thing I'm going to do is factor out a GCF, greatest common factor, which is an x. So here we have x squared minus 8x plus 12. From that, I have a quadratic standard form. And so my a value is 1, so I can jump straight to the factor. So my factors would be in this form, and I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give you 12. The same two numbers have to add up to -8, right? So this is kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for two values that multiply to 12. So a is 1, c is 12. When I'm multiplying, they multiply to 12. The same two numbers have to add up to your b value. My b value in this case is -8. So when I add two numbers, I need it to be negative. So that tells me that I'm looking for two negative numbers. And so here, -6 and -2 multiply to -12, and they also add up to -8. And so my numbers here are -6 and -2. So I got to figure out, okay, well, when is each one of these parts going to equal 0? Well, the first one is whenever x equals 0. Second one is when x equals 6. And then this last one is when x equals 2. So these are my solutions, right? That's the values that make the 0. Anytime we're looking for zeros, it's the same thing as solutions, roots, intercepts. So all I got to do now is write these solutions as points. In this case, my x-intercepts, which means 0, 0. And then we have 2, 0, and then 6, 0.